Welcome back to the fourth installment of this series. I'm Midge, and after a bit of a break, we are kicking off the second part with Pocket devices. There are various Pocket devices, all serving different purposes and with a different level of complexity, so we'll see how things progress. However, my aim is to cover one Pocket device over the space of 1 or 2 lessons. The device you'll probably use most is called the PocketScope. PocketScope is almost like a time machine. It has the ability to look at a value over time, and then display it to you in the form of a line, or what we all know as a graph. Just as a side note, especially to students, we have a short series called Demystifying Graphs, and I strongly recommend you watching that if graphs are a bit of a mystery to you. By watching that, the PocketScope will also make a lot more sense. Okay, to create a new PocketScope, make sure your selection tool is active. Then click on the device icon located here. Okay, you will now see this Create Device window. Now we can click this drop-down button to display the different available devices, and I'll find the PocketScope in the list. Here it is, and let's click that. And we don't get a PocketScope. Instead, we get what is called the Device Parameter window. First, we need this to set up different parameters from our device. So let me take you through these settings. Firstly, we give the device a name. This is important because the name is associated with the purpose of the device. So I'll call my PocketScope Transformer. The next text box has 3 values, separated by these colons. You will notice that the colons divide the text box into 3 segments, and you will learn that each segment has a different meaning or purpose. For example, this first segment is the size of the device in pixels. I want my PocketScope to be large, so let's make it 400. Note that I only type 400 and not pixels. Then we have the placement position. This is where the device will be placed on the screen from the left and the top. But I leave these at the defaults. You can always drag the device to a new location later on. The time text box is how long it will take for the PocketScope to complete one cycle in seconds. I'm going to put a 5 in there, and you'll see what I mean by this a bit later. Okay, next up are the grid lines. Left of the colon is the amount of X grid lines, and right will indicate the amount of Y lines. We will make the X 0 and the Y 5. Lastly, we have the range parameters, and they are based on minimum and maximum values. These first 2 indicate the X minimum and X maximum, and they are 0 by default, so we will leave them like that. Now these 2 Y limits are important because they represent the maximum input values or input range for the device. According to the documentation for this particular simulation, the transformer output is rated at 12 volts, so we want to make sure that the scope can handle the 12 volts and a bit more. So I will make mine from minus 16 volts up to 16 volts. This will ensure that we stay within the limits of the signal we are going to send into the PocketScope. Once again, remember we are working with an input device. Okay, when you're finished, make sure that all the data is typed correctly and that you did not accidentally remove a colon. When you are happy, click on Create. Your selection tool should still be active, so you can drag the PocketScope around by holding and dragging this bottom right corner with your mouse, just like this. Let's quickly run over the PocketScope display. I'm not going to explain too much for now, but in the next lesson, I will show you how we use this device. First of all, we have the main display. This is where the scope is going to plot the graph, or graphs, for you. Here are the grid lines that we created, and notice that there are no vertical lines on the x-axis. You will also notice that the PocketScope automatically created these values on the left, based on the minimum and maximum values that we entered, starting from the bottom at minus 16, running through the 0 point in the middle, and ending on top at positive 16. In our case, this will represent voltage. On the control faceplate, we have a reset, run, add, and this power switch button. The reset button will write 0 to all the points on the graph. The run button will run and pause the scope. Then this add button will add or load multiple graph lines into your scope. I promise, I'll show you that one in the next lesson. This arrow here can be used to dock the device, which basically means hiding it. You can even dock the device while it is running, no problem at all. Lastly, we have the power switch that can be used to delete the complete device, with all graph lines and connections. Okay, so don't close your simulation just yet. Go stretch your legs, take a few deep breaths, and in the next lesson, I'll show you how we can use the pocket scope we created. See you then!